Hey guys, JB here for your weekly intensive training. It is going to be an awesome training day. Listen, so we are on now week 3 of the certification program. Now, for those of you who are not on certification, it's okay. You should get on it because it's awesome, right? But just, this is still a topic that's relevant to you. We're just following along each week now with these first 12 weeks. It's a 12-week program, very organized and regimented. And this week, we are focusing on state management. And I want to just start off by saying that the reason that I put state management in this spot was because I had to do tonality, an overview of what unconscious communication. So I want to give you enough about hey, here's the deal, this tonality, body language, what's really going on in someone's mind, right? That's why I put unconscious communication before state management. And of course, the 5 core elements came first, right? But before I go any further here and start digging into the next 2 modules, which are tonality, which you get, by the way, the tonality module is ridiculously great. My graphics team spent a gazillion hours putting it together, so it's so easy to understand and so easy for you to actually internalize, all right? So you're going to love that, and you'll have that, I think, at the end of this week, you'll get that, right? If that's when it comes out. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, right? But I wanted to make sure that before I did that you really not only understood the importance of having the ability to manage your own state, okay, but also that you understood that on some level that when you're using tonality, you're changing other people's states at all, as well. And that's what's happening as you move someone down the straight line, right? You're essentially taking the certainty that is inside of you. In other words, you feel absolutely certain that your product, your good, your service, that what you have to offer, and also that you, as a salesperson, as a force in this person's life, this future client's life, that this person is absolutely positively want you in their life, right? You're certain about that. And that feeling of absolute certainty, it doesn't come from the straight line system. The straight line is not capable of creating certainty in someone else. The straight line system allows you to transfer the certainty that's inside of you to your prospect. You get it? So again, and hopefully I'm kind of beating a dead horse with here. So I hope you realize this, but I don't think there's too many times I can say this, because until you truly understand this, it's almost like you don't really know what's going on when you sell. I think one of the reasons why I was a natural born closer, it's like why I really understood it, is in my own mind, I deeply understood that if I wanted to close somebody else, I had to basically walk in their shoes. I had to imagine, what would this person want to be hearing, right? I almost reverse it. If I was the prospect, what would I want to hear right now? What would need to be said to me? How would it need to be said to me? What would it kind of have to look like from my perspective to want to buy something? And I keenly understood that just because how I'm built. I'm empathetic, and I think just being raised the way I was, whatever, for better or worse, right? And I was keenly aware that when I was communicating in a situation of influence, that I was doing what I would want to be done to me. Like if I was that prospect, what would I want to hear? How would I want me to be dressing? I was able to play almost both sides of the equation. And that's a really powerful thing to do, to understand, to really be able to walk in someone else's shoes and to feel what they'd be feeling and to know what they'd want to know. You get it? And I think all natural born closers have that ability. They have this ability to almost kind of, without thinking much about it, to just understand naturally what someone would want to hear, and what type of smile they want to be greeted with, what tonalities, right? And for me, as a salesperson, this initial root experience I had, it was the first daily motivation of the week I gave you, right? Was about this guy, the Penguin. My first real sales job was in the meat and seafood industry, and the Penguin took me out, and I watched this guy lose his state of certainty. He lost his state of certainty. He started the day off being absolutely positively, it's just a bull in a china shop. My name's Elliot. I'd look to, you wouldn't want any filet mignon, shrimp or lobster tails. Right? I watched it happen. And as I've said to you, you don't remember everything that you see or everything you hear. But that stuck out. Like, I was so blown away by that. I'll never forget that feeling. I was like, I wonder if he knows how terrible he sounds. Like, I really wondered does he really know how awful he sounds? Because to me, it was so plainly obvious. So on that level, what's really happening is we have a fundamental breakdown of the ability to transfer certainty to someone else because the salesman themselves is not certain. Salesman loses a state of certainty, can't transfer it in any sales, using any sales system, right? That's only one side of the equation, though. What I'm driving at here is that there's also the flip side, which is the fact that even if you're not selling, no matter what it is you do, if you're in a disempowered state, you can't access the resources that you have, meaning you can't tap into your best self. For example, in sports, we call that being in the zone, right? They're in the zone. When an athlete's in the zone, it's just like they're unstoppable. They play at this level that's almost like it's automatic or unconscious, right? They're tapping into that unconscious highest level. That's called being in the zone. Well, that's a function of state. That's state management. And we see that with athletes all the time. And the reason we see it with athletes is because when you get to this really, really high level of skill, what typically separates a Roger Federer, who fucking, by the way, really disappointed me because I love Federer. He blew it with Djokovic in Wimbledon after having 2 match points. I don't know if you guys watched it. It was devastating, all right? I ruined my whole Sunday, all right? Anyway, point is that for the most part, let's ball what happened Sunday, Federer has been known as having this ability to maintain a state of absolute calm and focus. But here's the interesting thing. I'd like you to take some time. In fact, I'll post it. I want you to watch Djokovic's post-match interview. And you know what he said? He said, the secret, the reason I won today is one thing I did, that I made a mental commitment to myself that no matter what happens, I'm not going to lose my state. This is exact. I'm not going to lose my focus. I'm going to remain calm. I'm not going to go up and down. I'm not going to lose my temper. What happens when you lose your temper? That's losing your state. You go from a state of calm to a state of anger and upset. He went into this match. Everyone's saying, God, you are known for being a very spirited player, yet somehow, even when you were down 2 matches, you're almost like emotionless and maintain your cool, maintain your state. He goes, that was my plan because I knew if I was going to beat Federer, I would have to do that. And I think what separated Federer from Djokovic, Federer played better that day. Federer had won 2 sets. Djokovic didn't win 1 set based on games. He won tiebreakers, right? So it was in those key moments when it mattered most. Djokovic was focused 100%, brought his best self to the table, and he arguably has set up the possibility that he could overtake Federer now as the number 1 winner of all. I will never say the greatest of all time because Federer will always be the greatest, but the point is the number 1 winner of Grand Slams. This was a huge loss for Federer, and it was based on Djokovic's ability to manage his state in the key moments. And that was exactly Djokovic's own words. Interesting, right? State management is powerful stuff, right? And it is the difference between greatness and goodness. You get it? The greats have the ability to bring their best selves to the table every single time. Not always, but when it matters most. Cost Federer a massive match, Now, I guess the point is that on that level, see, here's the thing. What's really happening when you manage your state, the metaphor I used, I think it was in lesson 1 of certification, was I showed you a graphic of a valve. And I showed you, I said, watch. And you saw these states, certainty, clarity, the 4 C's, right? And you notice that when you're in a disempowered state, the valve is closed. The valve is closed, right? The resources can't pour through. So the equivalent for you, so watch, so there's two things going on here. Yeah, you have to transfer your certainty, but also it's not just that. It's also, you can't even access your best self, your own ability to remember and deliver, have your best tonality, even just to like come up with good things to say. You're not, when you're in disempowered states, overwhelm especially, or uncertainty, you make bad decisions. You can't remember things that you normally remember. Like, things don't fly off your tongue when you're in a disempowered state. They just don't. So it's the whammy. It's like a double whammy here. The first thing is that you simply can't, if you're not certain, how do you get someone else certain? When sales is about transferring certainty. So you're dead in the water because of that. And also, no matter how proficient you are with the actual tactics and strategies of the straight line system, if you're in a state of overwhelm and uncertainty and anger, you can't even use it well. You're going to be clunky, your tonality will be off, your body language will be terrible. It's a double whammy. Learning how to manage your state, I'm telling you, at the highest level of life, I understand, when you're just getting started, I get it. It's like, yeah, I got to learn to manage my state, but I have so much to learn simply about being a closer and about the technical side that even if I learn to manage my state, well, I might still not do that well. That might be true. If you're just getting, you'll quickly get proficient when you start studying the straight line. If you're just starting, yeah, maybe that's true. Maybe it'll take you another few weeks to really start to see the benefit of that. But I promise you this, promise you, that if you don't perfect or at least become proficient at showing up to your business life, your work life, in an empowered state, you're going to be one of those people. It's like you're a sales manager's or an owner's worst nightmare. You're someone that has all the talent in the world, but only brings it to the table once a week or once a month, and you drive them crazy. We all know those people. We've all managed those type of people. There's people who have all the talent, but they just can't get themselves to show up on a daily basis. They perform at the top of their game once a month or maybe once a week at most, versus someone who's got their inner game sorted out, who shows up every single day. Guess what? I'll take that latter guy every day of the week. You know why? Because that person will eventually master the skill side of the equation. And once they do, they will destroy the naturally talented person who's an emotional basket case. I have trained more of those emotional basket cases than you know, and I'll tell you this, the reason I have been able to harness those people when others couldn't is because I don't just teach them how to close. I make sure they learn about the inner game as well, vision, state management, belief systems, all right? And that's why as you go through these modules, you'll notice they'll be peppered in. For instance, you're going to be getting a module on vision before we go to some, there's more outer game stuff, but there's a module for vision coming up. Why? Because if you don't have a target to aim for, then it's going to be really hard to keep yourself focused and positive. And really, honestly, you're like twisting in the wind. A ship without a destination, right? It's like wherever the wind blows, that's where you go. You have to have a destination. So you'll notice that you're going to start seeing other inner world modules peppered in through your training, and they're not just fillers. They're an insurance policy for you to be able to use the straight line system at the highest possible level. That's what they are. You get it? So let's talk now about state management. Now that I just want to get that clear, that it's not just about transferring certainty. Yeah, that's without it, you're screwed. But even without that, I don't care if you're in day-to-day the world, go moving through the world, if you're in disempowered states, you just can't access all the skill sets you have, the talents you have, the resources, and you perform at a really low level. All right? So let's now get specific. I want to dig right into the practical side of this here with olfactory anchoring. All right? Now, number one, I know that it seems weird. I'm the first one to admit that, right? When I first was studying NLP. And the reason the reason I started studying NLP was because I'd heard that, by definition, NLP is about modeling and collapsing time to make change. So to me, it seemed like this, wow, if I can learn, have another tool in my toolbox, so to speak, to help people make rapid change, rapid improvements, why would that be not an awesome thing, right? That was my reason for learning NLP. I was very fortunate that I had Bandler as my teacher, right, who invented NLP, right? Because frankly, without that, there's a lot of charlatans out there that teach NLP. And if it's even the slightest bit watered down, it doesn't really work. And while I'm a major proponent of certain aspects of NLP, like belief change especially, I was not overly impressed with the state management, the anchoring. I found it to be lacking. And the reason is because of these two key points that Bandler raised that are just literally the ultimate necessity for truly setting an anchor. And for those of you who are not in certification, you should be, all right? Here's the deal. What I'm talking about here is that anchoring on the NLP tends to break down because of two reasons. Number one, in order to really, truly set an anchor, to really lock in an anchor, you have to be at the absolute tippy top of your state. You can't be even slightly below. It's only when you're like emotionally wrought, like that's it's like you're so over the top in whatever that state might be. It could be a state of sorrow, by the way, where people get anchored into a depressed state. And it's such an intense, that something happens. The best example is post-traumatic stress, where people will go off the war having one set of behaviors, and they'll come back, and every time they hear a loud noise, they'll be, whoa, and they're diving under a table. Before they even were able to realize there was someone slammed the door, their unconscious mind triggered a memory fired off an anchor that said there's a bomb going off, run for cover. Anchors get set all the time. It's the reason why when you're driving in the car and you either hear a loud siren behind you or see a red flashing light, before you know it, your heart's beating out of your chest, your pulse is quickened, you're breathing, you're looking around. 20 seconds later, you see an ambulance pass you by and you calm down. Oops, it wasn't a policeman. The reason that we have that response, at least most people do, is because when we were kids, we were driving with our parents, and a policeman pulled them over, and everyone was nervous. And in that moment, you saw the fear. It's an overwhelming anxiety response. You're at that top of fear. Something's wrong. We can get arrested. Something's going on here. And in that moment of intense fear and worry, the light is set with you see the stimulus happen organically. In other words, in real life, there was an actual link between feeling incredibly scared or fearful or anxious and a loud sound, noise, or word. In this case, it was a visual light flashing or red light and loud sound. That was organically linked to you actually being fearful because it was a fearful situation. Not just a bit, it's really fearful. I remember the first time my dad got pulled over. You should have seen that they were so worried. We were in the deep South, and we were on family vacation. The worry in the car, I'm telling you. And my dad had a legitimate license, right? He was so upset and nervous about this whole thing, right? I'll never forget it. My heart was beating out. So now, anytime I hear that, and most people are like me, you'll have this visceral response. People that go to war, I said, right? They for better or worse. The reason is because they were scared for their life. That's the ultimate fear. I'm going to die. I'm going to get blown up by a landmine. So you hear an explosion, loud sound, you're flipping out, you're diving for cover. Anchors get set automatically. That's the way the world works. We have many anchors, and we move through the world, and we have these visceral responses to the things around us based on certain things that happen. You might have a terrible, awful fear of public speaking. Why? Because the first time you tried it, you were very nervous and something happened. You had a bad first result and your heart was beating out of you. You felt intense embarrassment and fear. And now even the thought of public speaking is enough to send you into an emotional tailspin. I'll be honest with you. As a child, I suffered badly from panic attacks. I really did. I had debilitating panic attacks from the time I was like 8 years old to the time I was like 15 years old. Really bad panic attacks when I was trying to go to sleep at night. Something happened, and no one really knows what happened. But I think, in retrospect, what happened was there was a medication you took for nausea before they invented the modern drugs. Now they use something called Zofran. There's another medication. I think it's called something like not strychnine, something that they inject into you when you're nauseous. It stops vomiting, right? And one of the side effects of that injection is a panic attack. It can induce a panic attack. And what happened was I had profuse vomiting when I was like 6 or 7 years old, and the doctor came over, gave me this injection, and about an hour or two later, I had a panic attack. And I linked this feeling of being panicked, like I was going to die, with being sick. Well, up until the age of 16, when they spontaneously went away, every time I'd get sick, I would suffer from a month of panic attacks. It would bring on panic attacks. Why? Because I got linked in my brain. It linked up being sick with panic. All right, and it took years of therapy. Seriously, I'm so screwed up. I'm probably going to use therapy for a lot of reasons, right? But I went to therapy as a kid for that because I had these panic attacks. And only many years later, when I was getting an injection again, and the doctor said, "Oh, you might get an anxiety attack from this." I'm like, "What?" And it hit me what had happened. All those years had gone by, 7 years not understanding why every time I got sick, it would trigger a panic attack. That was why. That's why. The reality is anchors are there. I shouldn't have to convince you that you can set anchors. You can. You have many right now. So any lack of belief that you had before right now, please just shed that. It's not true. You can set anchors. The point with NLP is, why not take something like this that can happen naturally? Why not use it to your advantage? If you can program your brain like that, why not program it to serve you? Why should it happen only if I unfortunately get panic stricken and I set an anchor for panic when I'm sick? Not very debilitating. It would be nice that when I get sick to have an anchor for feeling calm. It would be much better, right? NLP's breakthrough, what Bandler realized, was you could actually program the brain artificially. What makes it not work well in the real world, though, is that in order to set the anchor, you got to be at the absolute tippy top of the state. You have to really be panicking. If you want to set one panic, you got to really be certain to set an anchor for certainty. You can't imagine, because the NLP philosophy is, all right, go close your eyes, go back to a moment in your life when you were feeling absolutely positively certain. That's how it starts. You search for a root experience. And then you use the software of the brain. You close your eyes, imagine how you looked in this picture in that moment. And then if you want, put a frame around that picture. And now make that picture, imagine like TV knobs under the picture. You can adjust the TV knobs and make the picture bigger, brighter, clearer, move it close to you. All those little tricks that NLP uses to use the power of your own brain to make images more powerful to you, right? Add on dialogue, make the dialogue louder, add on new dialogue, create dialogue, all this sort of stuff, right? And then get yourself like that to the tippy top of the state, and then make some move, because that's the second thing that causes NLP anchoring not to work, is if you set an anchor. I mean, the anchor is the actual, what is it? Is it a sound? Is it a gesture? Is it a noise? What is it? Well, you have to have something that's very, very extraordinary, not ordinary. The more extreme, the better. The more uncommon, the better. The more severe, the better. The more it shocks your senses, the better. But that being said, what it can't be is something that shocks your senses in a negative way to create its own negative reference. In other words, like, for instance, as you know, right, I came up with this really great idea. It was a great idea to use sense of smell, because that's tied directly to the limbic system. So the most basic basal responses are based on sense of smell. So it was reptilian, right? And it's the reason why if they've tested this, if one molecule of a scent that you've smelled 30 years ago. One molecule comes and hits your olfactory nerve. It instantly lights up a cascading effect of neurons in your brain. One molecule. That's how, and by the way, we're like the least sensitive to this. Like dogs, they have dogs that sniff stuff out. Dogs can tell if you have cancer by smelling you. They sniff for drugs, weapons, everything, bombs, right? So animals have incredibly keen sense of smell. We are far less keen, but still, when that smell hits you, I remember, I'll never forget, one of the memories I have is the smell of freshly cut grass up in the mountains when I was a kid going to summer camp. I'll never forget that. There's a certain smell that to this day, it puts me right back in that moment. As soon as I think about that, I almost feel the feelings and imagine the picture that happened back in the day. Same thing goes for the smell of low tide at the jetty when my dad used to take me fishing. That salty, musky smell of low tide. Smell of my grandmother's house, right? That musky, mothballed scent, right? Those scents will be with you for the rest of your life. The rest of your life. You'll never, ever forget those. And anytime you're in a situation where you smell that, it'll take you back to that moment. You've probably experienced this yourself. It's very powerful. Well, it was somewhere about a year after I was out there teaching sales formally around the world, and I was, found people struggling with state management. And I was trying to teach them NLP anchoring, and frankly, it wasn't working. Because the problem is that, the whole idea of, jumping and screaming and imagining yourself being certain doesn't really cut it. So imagine, you have the certainty scale, right? So, imagine yourself just closing the best sale that you ever closed. See yourself in the picture. Make that picture bigger, brighter, move it closer to you. Add on the dialogue, put it into motion. See yourself in the picture. In fact, step inside your own body. So if you look it out through your own eyes, it's called being in an associated state. Let those emotions wash over you. Imagine a feeling you're getting and tumble that feeling, spin that feeling. These are all the NLP techniques. And I teach them to you in, I think it's lesson 5 or 6. Why do I do that? Why would I teach that to you? Well, here's the thing. Anchors are stackable, meaning, so while you might not be able to fire off an anchor that you've kind of set from NLP because it's not a real anchor, you didn't really get there, it does serve as a platform that you can now springboard on to the next level. So let's say you got yourself to an 8 on, let's say you go to 1 to 100. Let's say you go 100 on the certainty scale. That's absolute certainty. Maybe you guys up to like a 91 or 92 using NLP techniques with imagining yourself, right? But it's not good enough. The anchor won't set unless you're at 100. That's a fact. And NLP is the first people, band will tell you that's the way it works, right? So I realized very quickly that all these subjective means of trying to get yourself to an artificially pumped up state, they wouldn't cut. You can't imagine yourself into a state of absolute anything. Yet there are people out there that are setting anchors all the time. Why? Because it's happening to them organically. That was my breakthrough. I said, oh my, like, it seems so simple when I'm like, wait a second. Why am I trying to set an anchor by imagining myself in a state of certainty? Why don't I just wait till I close my next sale? And I really am feeling that. Like, imagine after you close this really tough sale and you're basking in the so-called afterglow of closing that sale where you just wow, damn, did I sound good? Woo, and you feel like you can conquer the world. That's why, by the way, people will get on rolls and also people get in slumps. Because like success begets success. Because a positive state keeps going for a while until it turns on you. Unless you can artificially manufacture one through anchoring, eventually, you'll have some bad, you find a couple of people who are really negative and you lose your role. Next thing you know, you're in a slump. See, why do slumps happen? Why would you be in a slump as an individual, as a company? You know why? I'll tell you why. Slumps are a part of success. Every great batter, every great tennis player, every great salesperson, including me, has slumps. a lot of it has to do with the natural ebb and flow of just getting into cold areas or getting cold leads. Bad time of year. We used to have this thing we used to call it Stratton. We called it the Christmas crowbar because all the stocks would go down at the end of the year. It was terrible. And people would, you could almost form limiting beliefs from that and you lose your state of, your state of certainty, right? But the point was everyone has slumps. Usually they're not imagined. Sometimes they are. Sometimes the company that you're working for, it might have not been their fault. Maybe there was some bad leads came into the pipeline. Maybe the offer wasn't priced correctly. Maybe it wasn't. There's many reasons why a slump could start. But typically that little blip for a great company, all right, that's going to be very short-lived, and they'll fix that. They could have had a bad 2 days of leads, a bad week of leads. Happens. They realize they switch the lead source or do something. They do a nip or a tuck, right? That's what people do, pivot, right? But the damage is done inadvertently because now people start closing lists. They lose self-belief. They start getting negative. And what happens? Figure it out. If you show up in a state of negativity, you could have the best value speed. It's like Elliot that day trying to sell meat and seafood when he's knocking on doors like this. You wouldn't want any filet mignon, shrimp or lobsters. I mean, like my food basically is poisonous. I'm making it like he almost was like telling them not to buy. So even people who will qualified buyers who want it, will be like, nah, I want to be like everybody else and say no. He's telegraphing that no one wants it. Slumps are a fact of life, and they usually have their causes rooted in very identifiable, discernible things. Perhaps the pitch you were using was a little bit off, causing you not to close, but you fixed it. Like it was a little thing. Like it's just like for a while something happened, but then you're stuck with the slump, and the slump becomes self-perpetuating. The good news is by using anchoring, by using olfactory anchoring, you can break out of any slump. You can listen, what you do is you essentially take this out of the equation. You know, what Djokovic said, there's so many elements I can't control. I can't control the weather. I can't control how fast the court's going to play. I can't control how Roger Federer's going to play. I can't control how Federer's going to control his emotions. I know one thing. I can't even control how good I'm playing, how's my body moving that day. But I can control my thoughts. That is in my control. Not to ever, but for this match, I'm controlling my thoughts. Well, as a salesperson, adopting that philosophy is just, it makes you unstoppable because you can then use olfactory anchoring to actually make sure that you show up in your best state every single day. You break out of slumps. You know how you do it? By working twice as hard and by triggering your anchor. So even in slumps, you're going to be closing here and there. So how do you use olfactory anchoring to set an anchor? I'm going to draw it out in the board. I'm wearing shorts. It's hot here today, right? So let me just really quickly here just show you what happened. Very quickly. Watch. So here's what happened. NLP anchoring has got 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Step 1 is choose the state you want to anchor. Choose the state, right? Step 2 is choose the focus. Step 3 is choose your physiology. Step 4 is intensify your focus, this feeling by managing these two, using your brain to manipulate the image. Step 5 is to choose an anchor and set it. Those are the 5 steps of NLP anchoring. In other words, what state do you want to choose? I want to anchor in a state of absolute certainty. Step 2, all right, go back to a focus. You can choose your focus. I want you to focus on a moment in your life when you were feeling absolutely certain. Choose a sale. That was a really tough sale. You closed it. Go back to that moment. Imagine yourself there, okay? And now imagine how you looked at that picture. How are you standing? How are you sitting? Change your physiology right now because state is dependent on these 2 things. What you focus on, how you move your body, it triggers a state. Intensify that by using your brain, the software. Make it bigger, brighter, move it closer, right? Get yourself to this absolute state of absolute certainty, right? And then choose an anchor, yes, or clap your hands and set the anchor. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Why? Because it's really, really hard to get to a 10 or a 100. And also, clapping your hands or shouting the word yes, it's not that unique. I mean, you ever go to a Tony Robbins event? I love Tony, but, everyone's like, yes, make you, yeah. And it's not special. It's just, it's pedestrian. I'll tell you what, you want an anchor? Go smell a skunk. That's a negative anchor. Something that's so powerful. It's like, whoa, my God, like overwhelms, shocks the senses. So that's NLP anchoring. What's olfactory anchoring? Really, here's the brilliance. It cuts out all of this. Don't focus on anything. Don't change your physiology. Don't try to intensify it. Step 1, okay? Choose the state. Step 2, wait until you're there organically and pull out your boom boom and set your anchor. Wait until it happens to you naturally. See, if you have this a portable anchor like a boom boom, it doesn't have to be boom, it can be anything. Any type of smell that's portable in your pocket, right? Wait until you close a really tough sale, and in that moment, you're like, yes! And you know that feeling. If you're in sales, you know that feeling. You're just like, damn, yes! I was awesome. I could take over the world. That's the feeling. That's being truly certain about yourself. That's a real, legitimate, tippy top of the scale. If you do a presentation and someone says, yeah, sure, and you have a lay down, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about one where you fought for it, you worked hard, you did everything right, and bam, you're like, yes, and you know you were great. That's what I'm talking about. In that exact moment, you take out and go, and you link the smell to that feeling of absolute certainty, and you do that once, then don't use the anchor again. Do it a second time, do it 3 times. You have set a really powerful anchor for certainty. Once you have that, before you pick up the phone, before you walk in the door, you could use that to trigger a state of absolute certainty, and it works like a charm. Now, that being said, do you have to do this every single time? No. Like, honestly, I don't. Why? Because I don't struggle with managing my state. I find it really, really easy. She had a sip of Rebel Hill. I find it really easy to manage. What time is it, by the way? 5:45. I find it really, really easy personally to manage my state. It's not a struggle. Every once in a while, I find myself, maybe I could use a little push and I'll do it. But for the most part, I don't. But as I said in the CERT program, I said, listen, guys, I'm an oddball. I know that. Most people really struggle with this stuff. They find it difficult to act in a way that isn't congruent with how they feel in a sales setting. I swear to God, I could be literally almost on my deathbed, or just have so many problems in my life. But in that moment, when I have to show up for sales or business, I can push it all aside and be at the absolute. I'm not even talking like 2 levels. I'm talking the top. I can be at the top of my game at a moment's notice, no matter what is going on around me. Seriously. I guess if someone was really sick and it was a family, I would probably just shut down because that was, but I'm saying in the general course of life, I don't mean I'm a robot, but you know what I mean. The regular ups and downs, they don't impact me. They do heavily impact me outside of my business career. I'm an emotional basket case as much as you. I'm the first one to admit that. Everyone knows me, knows I am. I'm not trying to say I'm an emotionless robot. I'm the opposite. I'm a deep feeling person. Things bother me. They stick in my craw. Okay? So I'm not trying to say I'm lack emotion. I'm the opposite. I'm very emotional. But I can block it all out in a moment's notice. Here's my question. Can you? Be honest. Can you do that? Can you bring your best self to the table every single day, day in, day out? And I mean, day in and day out. This guy's, I always say, the quote I have to say, success, so much of it is about getting yourself to do the things that you know you have to do, even when you don't feel like doing them. It's a big part of success. Day in, day out, to make yourself do things you don't want to do. It's easy to get yourself to do what you want to do, right? If you enjoy stuff, it feels good. Yeah, anyone, children do that. But adults who succeed in life, no, they get themselves to do the things they don't like to do, and they can do them for sustained periods of time. Now, that's not just about state management. There's standards in there. There's belief systems involved. There's having a vision to know where you're going so you know your why. But in the moment, see, state management is your in-the-moment indicator. That's the ticket. It's your in-the-moment indicator of, can I bring my best self to the table? Standards is the opposite. Standards is your long-term indicator. Standards, by the way, is the last thing I teach. It's the last module in certification is standards. So for those of you guys who don't know, it's I have customers for life. So I end with looping, right? And then follow-up campaigns, looping, and then I go customers for life, and then standards last. Why is standards last? It's because it's not about in the moment. Standards is like, where do you burn? What will you not settle for less than? Really? Not in your fantasy world. I mean, at the end of the day, what will you not allow yourself to settle for less than? What's your real number? The amount of money you must make. What level of success must you have to function and move through the world and be okay with yourself? That's where you'll end up. Promise you. Not above, not below. Yeah, you can hover above. You'll fall below. But that standard, that level, that's where you end up. It's where you burn. Metaphor I use always is I'm a 4-cooler guy. Right? I'm a 4-cooler guy. When I go to the beach when I was a kid, I'm not stopped until I sell 4 coolers. But a lot of my friends, 4 of them I brought down, 3 would sell 1 cooler and stop. Why? They were 1-cooler guys. Standards. They felt good. They said, damn, I just made $100. That took me a week to make. I'm like, I want to make as much as I can because I want to go to school, pay for my education, live a great standards. But to get yourself to act in the moment, that's your state of mind. To show up, to block out other thoughts, to be your best self every single day, day in and day out. That is what success in the moment is all about. So the way I look at it is this. There are 2 ways to go through life in terms of sales and managing your state. One is you could leave it up to chance and say, I hope that I am in the right state when I knock on a door or pick up the phone or enter any situation of influence. I hope I'm feeling good so I can access my resources to be my best self. Or I can perfect a surefire way to know I will be there every single time. And that's what this module is about. You get it? Now, you'll notice there's a bonus lesson. You probably haven't got there yet, where I take you through a live demonstration because you need someone to really take you through this live to really do it. Please make sure that when you're going through the bonus footage there, be alone. I want you in a quiet room where you can be yourself, play full out with it. Don't hold back. This is a more is more game, not less is more. You're going to really engage with your mind, your body, your soul, your spirit, the whole 9 yards, all right? You do that, you'll walk away from this module with a stone cold, first class, awesome anchor for absolute certainty that you could trigger at will. My gift to you and the gift you give yourself for the rest of your career in sales and your personal life. Because, by the way, you can set anchors for anything. It's not just certainty. You can set it for patience, clarity, comfort, compassion. Seriously. And with that, let me bring my son in. I got Bobo here with questions. All right, time for your Q&A. Let's rock and roll. Next module, guys, coming soon. Tonality. You're going to love it. Advanced tonality.
Is that mic all right?
Should be good.
All right, guys. Try the other way.
There you go.
All right, cool. I know last week was a bit quiet. All right, guys, here comes first question from Tyler Jackson. Can't wait to meet everyone at the graduation ceremony for the SLP 4.0 certification course completion. I hope everyone has it. What day is the ceremony going to be?
TBA. To be announced. Matt and I were talking about this today. Here's the deal. Just one thing I want to bring up. I've gotten, I think, about hundreds of requests for I want to bring someone with me, a parent or a spouse. So we are providing a way for you because it's a closed event. There's no outsiders here. But we're going to work out if you'd like to bring a spouse with you to your graduation. It's going to be such a fun, amazing day. There'll be a party. It's going to be really fun. So you'll want to come. I swear we've gotten people signing up like mad. By the way, the reviews, just check out do we have a review page for this? I mean, the reviews are so great. I mean, I had a guy flew in today from England. He just said to me, honestly, I'm on module 2. It's already changed my life. And that made me feel great because we've all worked really, really hard. Yeah. And we continue to every single day, right? We'll allow you to bring a guest with you for a very nominal fee, okay? And they'll be able to have also after the dinner or there'll be some sort of food. I'm not giving you caviar for 1,000 people, but it's just maybe. Anyway, we'll work. So if you have a question, just call up customer service, call up our hotline. They'll explain that to you so you can. We have a promo you can bring someone with you to the certification, graduation. Right?
All right, awesome. Fernando V asks, Boom Boom didn't do anything for me. Any other recommendations?
Boom Boom didn't. Oh, yeah, sure. Listen, Boom Boom in the sense that what? You didn't like the smell or?
I don't know. Fernando, can you clarify that for us?
Fernando, let me explain to you. So, very simple, right? If an anchor doesn't work for you, it means one simple thing, that you weren't truly at the top of your state. Remember what I said today? I said to you, listen, it can't be when you just close a sale. It's got to be that special sale. Like there's some moments, come on, let's be honest. Like I'm not trying to say, like, listen, the straight line is very different than anchoring. Like anchoring is Dr. Bandler's invention. I figured out a way to make it, I think, at least far more effective, right? But there's limitations. You cannot set an anchor if you're at a 9.75. If you're at a 9.9, you're not going to set an anchor. You got to be at an absolute 10. What I would do, all right, what I would try is to combine, and this is why I taught you NLP anchoring. In the cert course, I didn't just say, don't worry about it. It's not, no. Try next time you close a really tough sale, use your brain to then build it even more, stack it even more, amplify it, keep amplifying, get yourself, use the techniques of NLP on top of it naturally happening organically. Combine those two and just keep doing it again. I promise you, anchor stack. You will, if you stick with this, you will set an anchor. That's the best I can do because frankly, it will set. It's not because I'm so smart. It's just science. You get it? It's scientific, and it's proven. Very simple. You haven't gotten yourself to the highest state, or maybe you don't like the smell of, try a different scent. I told you, I don't care if it's Boom. I don't get paid 1 penny when you buy a Boom Boom. All right? I don't care about that. It could be a Vicks Vapor Rub smell. Seriously. How about that? It could be any smell you want. I was on an Emirates flight. I think I mentioned this one of the daily motivations this week. I was on a flight in Emirates, and they had these 4 scents they give. One for alertness, one for sleep. I was like, man, look at that. I'm sure it won't work because it doesn't work that way. But I was saying, like maybe there's a certain scent that has a natural inclination towards make you like, it's a relaxing scent. Because they've proven, by the way, that scents do affect your mood, even if they're not linked. They do have some impact. But if you choose a scent that is for energy and alertness and combine it with this, then you got something special, right?
All right, next question comes in from Loic CS. Loic CS. Sometimes I find it very hard to get into the proper mood after having some setbacks. What should I do?
Join the club, buddy. You're a human being. You're not a cyborg. State management is not about artificially walking around saying everything's great. Everything's great. Like just allow yourself to enjoy your own misery. I think what you think, what's he talking about now? Let me explain what I mean. There is amazing power in failure. There is amazing power in misery and setbacks as long as you don't let it disempower you. Allow yourself to feel crappy and make it even worse than it is. Let yourself, and then say, you know what? I don't want to feel like this anymore. The only thing that really propels us to change, at the end of the day, the most part, people will move away from pain. Change, when you're ready, happens like that, in a moment. What takes a long time, why people are so resistant to change, is they have to get to such a point, such ultimate pain and suffering where they're saying, it's so terrible, I got to change. Don't try to artificially protect yourself from feeling bad if things are bad. You have setbacks. You have every reason to feel like crap because setbacks stink. But let it move you. Understand what that means. Don't let it disempower you. See, what you're doing is you're letting your feelings disempower you. Who says that setbacks have to make you work less? Bowen, how do I handle adversity?
You just keep plowing
It's
forward.
my favorite thing. And I'm
You love
miserable. And you see, I'm miserable and I'm angry and I hate myself. And I work.
He relishes in it.
And I relish in I work 10 times as hard when things are not going well. And I'm miserable the whole way.
But he celebrates his success.
And I celebrate my success too. But the point is, I don't let it stop me. You get it? Stop. It's a victim mentality you have. Like, I can't control my feelings. No. Yes, you can. Enjoy your setbacks. Enjoy the misery of it. When I was in 6th grade, my dad, who thank God was very, very sick a couple weeks ago and has turned the corner. Now he's in rehab. Great news, right? My dad wrote the most amazing thing in my little, these yearbooks, these little books, the graduation, right?
Yep.
He wrote this thing. It said, dear son, I hope you have a life filled with joy and just a touch of sorrow so you'll know the difference between the two. I was like, wow. He didn't say just have a life full of, he goes, I want you to have a life of happiness with tremendous happiness, but just a touch of sorrow so you'll know the difference between the two. Powerful. Think about that. All right? The setbacks and they suck and they feel bad and they can be miserable. God damn, work harder. I'm not going to curse, so I'm going to leave out the F-bomb here. You're behind on your bills? What do? Good. Pick up the phone and start effing dialing. Your wife thinks you're a loser? Good. Pick up the phone and start dialing. You just lost your job? Good. Pick up the phone and start dialing. Solve your problems by getting rich. That was my real line. I said that back in 1988 or 89, and I said it 100 times to a room full of kids who were facing huge problems and setbacks. They came from disempowered backgrounds. I said, good, you want to fix it? Pick up the phone and start dialing. Your mother's in the hospital, she can't pay the bill. Good, pick up the phone and start dialing. My close rate said, good, pick up the phone and study. God, it's so simple. When you think about this, pick up the phone, start dialing. Knock, knock, knock on doors. Now, why did that work? Why wasn't it crap? Why wasn't it a lie? Because I also taught them how to do it. You see, that is not to say, do this. Yeah, in the absence of strategy, that is worthless dribble. That's what that is. Pick up the phone and start dialing. That's worthless dribble unless I say the words I teach you, and you'll become as powerful as the most powerful CEO in America. That's what else Leo said. That was my line too. I invented the straight line in 1988, and it allowed people who never could be successful before to be successful. This is my gift to you now. It's 1,000. It's so much more powerful now. I've taken that system and invented it and reinvented it and added on 87,000 layers, scrubbed it for ethics and integrity, and made it 10 times. Again, the success stories that I hear are staggering. We get every day staggering success. Unreal. Unbelievable success stories. Every day, people are writing in. I doubled my clothes. It's
awesome to see.
It's unbelievable to watch, right? But it's always been like that since the beginning. It worked. The system works. But only if you pick up the phone and start dialing, too. So the message has got to go both ways. You having problems? Good. Good for you. You're negative? Great. You know what? Work. You're on certification, right? Yeah, you are. Good. I promise you this. If you do the work, and you want to bang on the doors and pick up the phone, and you learn how to do this, you learn how to use tonality, right? Work. You can't help but succeed. You'll have a life that you never thought even possible, but not without a lot of hard work, and not with respecting the power of failure and its ability to motivate you to greatness. Bottom line.
All right, Kevin Zhu asked, today when I received an objection from a lead, I was too flustered to do the deflection properly. I directly asked her a question without asking for her permission. Then I could clearly feel she was put off because no matter what I said, she kept saying not interested in an impatient tone and then hang up. It was the first loop. I was meant to fill in the blank by giving her more information, but it seems the prospect was not interested in the first place. Now I realize maybe I just failed to qualify her and mistakenly dragged her into the sale? Question mark.
Doesn't matter. Here's what matters. You know what you said? You realized one important thing. You made a mistake. You didn't do it right. You didn't execute the strategy right. I mean, I don't know what happened. Maybe it was that. Maybe she was just not a buyer. Who knows? But the fact is that you're on the right path because your awareness is such right now. You're realizing that, you know what? When I say the wrong things, I get bad results. When I say the right things, I tend to get good results. Here's what I promise you. If you work hard and use the system, you'll become a world-class coach. You know why not? Because millions of others before you have proven that. It's not like pie in the sky. It just works. It's amazing. It's like one of the few things out there that actually works. This actually works. All right? Stick to it, pal. You made a mistake. Yeah, you did good. Next time you won't, because now you're aware. You'll make another mistake. That's okay. And you'll make another one. And you know what? And as you get better and better, you'll make less mistakes. What did I say in module 2? I think it was death by 1,000 cuts. Most salespeople die not from a death blow, like they don't get decapitated or dismembered. It's death from 1,000 cuts. It's a wound, a wound, a wound. You say one thing here, stupid, you bleed out. It's over. It wasn't any one thing you did. It was probably 10 or 15 things, and you didn't set it up right. It was old before it started. I would have closed her only if she was a buyer. We don't turn non-buyers into buyers. We take people who are possible buyers. Buyers, this is coming up in module 6, I think, which is so. And by the way, module 6, you know, I'm still working on it. It's done. I mean, I'm my 84th draft of it right now. It's so intensive and amazing. You're gonna
making it perfect.
It's like you're gonna be blown away how great it is. Like the prospecting module, although it gets even better. Everyone gets better and better, right? But bottom line is that you're gonna become a master at communication.
Oh, the tonality module? Oh my God.
No, it's amazing.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
That's
right?
the next one you guys are
Our
going to
graphics guys, they outdid themselves, right? I have a graphic guy, he's got Chris Diaz. He's just a killer. He's unbelievable, right? And he works till 2 in the morning. Anyway, point is that you're never going to be able to only put yourself in front of buyers. It's hard. You know what I say is in module, that's also coming up in prospecting. I really explain the truth about what's going on when people don't buy from you. Like this idea that, like, you know, why is all, there's always a reason why they don't buy from you, right? Hard as you try as you might, you're not going to only have qualified buyers show up in your sales funnel. Your job is to sift through the people who are in your funnel to find out who is potentially going to buy. Those buyers in power and buyers in heat. You'll see that soon enough. And we move those people down the straight line. You're in a great spot. Just keep getting better. Don't worry about the mistakes. Just practice, practice, practice. Don't go through a module once. Go through it 20 times. You know, you own it for life here. It's not like it's not like a license for 3 months for the guys who bought the system, individuals, right? That's yours. Use it as a resource forever. All right?
Awesome. Garrett Perfect says, I have the problem of just do it. I've had the idea of the company and the LLC is official now, but I'm mentally stuck. I'm not moving forward. I don't understand if it's just fear, lazy, or what. How do I manage my state to move and actually work? I think I'm just scared or something because I can't move. This is Garrett Perfect.
You know, Garrett.
Tough love?
And you have a great last name. Is it Garrett Perfect, really?
Perfect.
You're Garrett, you're not so perfect right now. Okay, but here's the thing, Garrett. Just shut up and do it now. I think what you're saying is just do it is like your motto, and you can't go by that. You can't live by it.
I think he's just using it as a more of a call. He just can't do it. He's not taking action.
Let me tell you something. The traditional wisdom on this is that the reason that people don't take action is because they have a fear of failure. They don't want to fail. I don't believe that's true. I don't think anyone wants to fail. And I think it's probably a very small part of things. But that's not really what's going on. It's not that you probably think you're going to fail. My guess is that you truly don't believe you're going to succeed. Can we get honest, Garrett? All right? If you really were sure that if you did the work, you'd get the life that you wanted, would you do the work? Yeah, you would. You would. You don't believe in yourself yet. All right? Well, the good news is there's a really great module coming up on belief systems. We're going to crack some limiting beliefs you have. But that being said, it might be a good thing, though. It might be a self-protective measure. Maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe you don't have what it takes. And I'm being dead serious, by the way. Maybe you don't have the skills you need. Do you? Well, let me tell you something. I promise you one thing. By the time you're done with this training, you'll have the sales. You'll have the persuasion skills. I promise you that. And I'm going to give you the skills to break through the limiting beliefs you have that are holding you back. But maybe there's other things going on here. Do you know anything about business? Do you know what you... See, what's probably happening, I'm guessing, is that when you play the movie out in your mind, you're saying, I don't really believe I'll succeed. That needs to be examined for what is really going on. How much of that is real versus imagined? Maybe you know the first thing about getting into business for yourself. Maybe you've had a failure in the past. I don't really know. But what I do know is this. I will take influence, sales. I will take that out of the equation. And here's what else I found. I found that when people learn the straight line, that voice in the back of your head right now, it's disempowering, that voice makes a shift. And you start coming from a place of absolute certainty versus uncertainty. You get that? That's what happens when you make that shift with the straight line system. That's my gift to you and the gift you give yourself. But you got to learn this stuff, and you got to learn at a high level, and then we need to examine what else is going on. Perhaps when we get to some other belief systems, you'll ask some questions about that. And I do appreciate you guys keeping all your questions on state this week, right? It was much more helpful to everybody, right? And we get to those modules, you ask those other questions. There could be other things. It could just be this, that you're not a very good closer, but once you learn the straight line, I promise you this, you'll make that shift and you'll start taking action, pal. I promise you. I've seen it a million times. All right? One more question?
Terry says, Bowen, a question for JB. The first time he set his anchor, did he need multiple attempts? If it doesn't take, do you repeat?
Yeah. Buddy, repeat, rinse, repeat. But please don't try that NLP. Just do it. Wait for the right moments. Have patience. I promise you, the reason anchors don't set, not according to Bandler, they don't set for one primary reason. You're not at the top of your state.
Can we do a little speed round? There's a bunch of questions, like speed answers here. Okay, here we go. Ankit says, hey, JB, I'm in an FMCG sector selling products such as floor cleaner, toiletries, etc. My prospect owns a chain of department stores across the country selling items similar to mine. Can you please help me with qualifying questions? Qualifying questions
coming up in prospecting. Next
Perfect.
Question.
Fernando V. Hey, Jordan, will the certification have an option just to unlock all the modules? I don't feel like waiting 12 weeks.
It will, but I'm not done with all the modules. They're all complete, but what we're doing is I'm updating graphics, adding on more quizzes. So there's things that are going on. There's two reasons why I spread it out. A, I could release them a little bit quicker. All right? That could go a little bit quicker. Not much. I don't want to go one. But the answer is yes. There will be a way, especially in the corporate market, to release them all at once. Okay?
Go through it twice, though, guys.
But for right now, I don't want to give you it's all done. It's all finished. It's all there. But what I'm doing is before I release a module right now, the whole company spends a whole week going through it with a fine-tooth comb,
make sure
adding stuff, adding it, coming up with better questions. So that's the commitment that we have to excellence here. Have a little bit of patience. I promise you it will be worth the wait. I hired, just so you know, 5 more graphics. I literally doubled the size of my graphics team to get things because after all 12 are out, I'm going back to 1 and making them better again. It's never going to stop here. All right? So you have all these things we're doing here. So have a little bit of patience. The answer is yes, I'll start releasing them quicker as I can. All right? But I don't think you realize how much work goes into one of these modules. I've been at this for a year and a half. All right? But, and it's still, and they're all done now, but I'm just making them better because that's our commitment to excellence.
All right, 6 more questions, right?
Yep.
All right, A.L. Lorenzi, hey, Jordan, do you ever visualize the sale before taking the phone and making the call?
Always do. Every single time I visualize, I imagine the whole thing closing in my head. It's a great thing to do. We'll get to that when we discuss vision. Great thing, yes.
Mike Gary says, how to remove an anchor for a bad emotional state? What I mean, if you have unconsciously set an anchor to a bad emotional state when you were young.
That's more of a belief change exercise. We got to go back to the root experience that caused that. We'll discuss that. And yes, we can do it. And you're going to love that. It's coming in about 3-4 weeks.
Harry Abraham says, what if your anchor is set and you're getting ready to close another big deal and the big deal goes south?
That's okay. That's okay, by the way. That doesn't change. The anchor is still there. That's just a negative outcome doesn't change an anchor. if something terrible happens, by the way, let's say watch with Harry, and Harry, I love you because you do so much on the site. You're very active, so I'll slow down and answer this. So here's what happens, Harry. It's not going to change the anchor you have set, but if something happens, let's say that you have a terrible result, right? And then something happens that day and you eat mashed potatoes, right? Or something smells something funny. Every time you smell that smell, you could link it to feeling really terrible inside. It won't change the anchors. The anchors don't fade away like that. Once you have a true anchor set, it lasts for good, okay?
Dustin says, Dustin, will there ever be enough success?
For me? Mm-hmm. Not really, because I don't define, it's not about money for me. I love what I do. I love this, guys. I couldn't perform at this level that I'm at right now, sustained, unless I loved it. I would stop. So it's not. So to me, success is not like it's congruent with enjoyment. Will there be enough enjoyment? No, I enjoy. I want to keep enjoying myself as much as I can to the day I die. I'll never stop enjoying myself. The day work becomes not enjoyable is the day I stop.
That's off to that. William Gross says, when you set an anchor for calmness versus certainty, do you have to change the scent?
Yes, for sure. A different scent, yes. And that's great to have one, by the way. I've been meaning to do this for a long time, to try to set one for sleep. I don't know why I haven't done it.
I've actually been talking to Boom Boom about them making a new product for sleep. They're making one.
Yeah, because there are certain scents. And my friend Haley's probably watching. Haley has a scent company.
Lavender.
Yeah, there's certain scents that do promote sleep and, delta waves that are associated with deep sleep. Anyway.
All right, Terrell, I've made over $2,000 since the release of the new straight line. How much time do you recommend giving to setting an anchor? To state. Just state management.
Wait till it happens organically. You can't invent it, bud. You can't force it. You have to wait until the right moment. That's it. That's what I've learned the hard way. Trust me, I tried. I tried everything. Okay, there's no replacement for truly being in a state of certainty. That's when you set your anchor.
All right, last one. Corbin Hale says, "What do you do if you set up an anchor, but after a few times using it and not succeeding at the highest level for whatever reason? What do you do?"
Doesn't matter. The anchor. If you set the anchor in a state of absolute certainty, the anchors, you just wait till the next time you close and you fire it off again. Anchors stack. Anchors are the opposite of drugs. Drugs. The more you use a drug, typically, the less impact it has. It's addictive, right? You get tolerance to it. Anchors are the opposite. The more you use it, the more powerful it becomes. So just stack it. If you have 4 bad experiences, it doesn't change the anchor, but wait till you have another, it might start to slowly decline if it's for over time, because everything, listen, and the smell of the freshly cut grass doesn't impact me today as much as it did 35 years ago or 50 years ago. So you'll keep refreshing, keep resetting it, and you'll be fine.
All
right? Guys, I love you. Great, but I appreciate that you really kept the questions to the module that we're all going through. And if you're not on certification, please pull the trigger. If money's a problem, call up the company. They're working payment plans out and some scholarships for people that can't. I know the shopping cart's closed right now, so we're not offering it formally to anybody. But if you missed the opportunity, you want to just call up, post something, someone will call you. I don't want you to miss out on this, all right? And there you go. Love you all. Big week ahead. Take care.